Hi, everyone. Today, we are going to look at the last of the three rums that I have from Naga, which is, I guess you could call it a merchant bottle, independent bottle, or whatever, from Thailand, run by a gentleman from France called Sebastien Fallope. And he does have some rums from Indonesia, the Batavia Araks, which are not strictly speaking rums because of the rice in the ferment, but put that aside for the moment and let's just talk about this one. This is the Naga Foolproof Kingdom of Siam rum from Thailand. Now, the label of the rum simply says Foolproof Kingdom of Siam and of course, Naga and so on. And that's because of some restrictions they had on labeling it as a product of Thailand, as a product that comes from the distilleries of Thai Bev. But I've covered this in the other reviews, and you can listen to those or read the review, the written review, if your curiosity has been piqued about this matter. All right. Now, initially, I did say that the 10-year-old at 40% was the core of the range, but it really isn't. It's the commercial product that probably outsells all the others, right? The true core rum, the starting point of all of them, is actually this one, right? This is the 62.3% foolproof version that comes pretty much out of the barrel after 10 years. And what they do is they dial it down to 40% for the standard edition. They then mature it for that 10-year-old for an extra year in PX barrels for the Shani. But this one is the original from which all the others derive, right? Personally, I believe that if they had simply started out with this one, their reputation would have instantly gone to where Isan and Chalong Bai, which are these small Thai distilleries that are not affiliated with Thai Bev, marked out their turf. I think they could have done it. But perhaps it wouldn't have sold so well, and it would have been the people like myself and others who like stronger rums who would have been the initial purchasers. It's hard to tell. They've gone the way they've gone, and I think the decision was probably the right one for their money. Okay, and that's not to say that the original rums that they made were bad. Not at all. They were quiet, served several rums in their own way, 40%, 46%, and they appeal for those reasons. What they don't really do, though, is make a splash in our mental image of the rumiverse in a way that, let's say, a High-Ester Foursquare might, or a Pot Still Unaged White from St. James would, or, Chalong Bay or Isan, really find our understanding of what Thai rums could be, because, of course, each one of them charted out territory for themselves and marked themselves as being individualistic in a way that these rums from Naga just don't. And to some extent, that's also an issue with this rum because it labors under the same restrictions as all of its cousins. I don't want to say weaknesses because that would perhaps be unfair, but think about it. It is also made from multi-pass column still distillate. I think they distill it 5 times. Excuse me. And it's bought on contract from the major distiller, which is Thai Bev. It's aged in charred ex-bourbon barrels for 10 years. It's bottled as it is. In other words, while the rum does allow itself the freedom to be stronger and therefore more intense and more pungent, if you will, the flavor notes really do pop. I got to be honest about that. But the thing is, we're one to dilute it down by oneself, and you just get the 10-year-old. So just by the 10-year-old, right? So what's the point of this? It marks out no new particular territory. All right, let's try it, and I'll explain to you what I mean by this. 10 years old, man, I do love this thing. All right, so there's a lot more to discern here, largely because of that 62.3%. That's strength. So there's some brown sugar, vanilla, coconut shavings. Again, we can't seem to get away from that. It's almost like a marker of the brand, you might say, and it kind of makes me suspicious. But no, I did test this, and it is 62.3%. So, it is what it is. Here we can pick out more fruits than the merely chocolate oranges or plums or whatever. We get pineapple, we get melons, we get papaya, we get some indeterminate fruits, chewed apples. There's even some aromatic shag tobacco in there, some light kind of thing of the sort I used to smoke back in the day. A pipe smoker would probably enjoy this. Even bourbon people, I think, would really, really like this. Let's see, anything else? No, a little bit of oranges, I suppose, and a bit of smoke, but that's pretty much all there is. And this is where the strength is so important because you really can pick out better notes when you do that. And the taste, let's try that. Wow. Okay, so this is where things get interesting. Not so much the nose, but the taste, because here we can spot the additional and faint notes of acetones, rubber, brine nail polish. There's a lot, it's more concentrated. There's a jolt of cinnamon and vanilla that we didn't see before. And even with the softening effect of coconut shavings, brown sugar, a little bit of vanilla and so on, the fruits do remain, and they are a little bit more discernible than they were in either of the others. Melons, overripe pineapple, orange peel, strawberries, a little bit of tutti frutti gum. There's probably a few esters in there that they're not talking about. And there's a slightly tawny aspect to the taste that's probably the barrel influence making it felt. A bit of bitterness, like very faint coffee. Not too much, just enough to be noticeable, but not enough to take over anything. It's nice. It's actually quite good. And if you try the finish, yeah, it's longer, it's more intense. It's a little bit jagged, actually, as if it hadn't quite had its rough edges sanded off yet. And it makes it on the wrong side of voluptuous, but it's sharp, it's vanilla, orange peel, some light tobacco, a little bit of tannins in there, and that's pretty much all you get. All right, so if you have looked or read the other two reviews, what you'll notice, of course, is that what we're getting is the same thing as we did in the other two, perhaps a little less on the sherry side, right? There's just more of it. It's a little bit more intense, and that's what makes this a better rum, at least to me, right? It's a variation that's based on intensity, not so much in quantity of what you're getting, nor is it seriously complex in a sense that you get 15, 20 different tasting notes, all of which kind of like play or don't play well together. And yet there is a difference, and we must be aware of it. Softer, subtler notes emerge. The experience is more intense, and overall, it is just better. So I think, if you permit me the digression, I think Sébastien Follop, who is the founder, he's doing something of what L'Espéry's Tristan Prudhomme sometimes did with his thing. So he would get a barrel that was, let's say, 65%, right? So he would bottle maybe, let's say, 50 bottles at 65%, but then he would dial everything else down to about 46 or 50% and so on to stretch out the barrel. So, you get the best of both worlds. And I think for those who like sterner stuff, this definitely is the rum that you want to get. The problem here, though, is that there is a lesser outturn here. I think the others were in the magnitude of about 10,000, 15,000 bottles, depending on how many barrels you got. But this one is 2,752, which is actually mentioned on the label. And I think absolutely that given what I'm tasting here, given how interesting it is and how much I enjoyed it, this is the one that's worth getting. I'm going to score this at about 82 points. And the reason why is because it doesn't actually chart very much new territory that I haven't already seen in so many other rums from, let's say, the Spanish styles, or like a weak Jamaican or a pot column blended Barbadian rum. It really doesn't distinguish itself as being from Thailand in a particular way. But if you want that, you're going to probably have to go to Chalong Bay or Isan or even Shakara, right, to see what you can get. But the thing is, if Naga as a whole is a brand that you like and whose rums that you've enjoyed, and you've only tried the PX and the 10-year-old, I would strongly recommend that you give this one a shot. It is really, really good for that. And it is a rum that, for its strength and for its age and so on, isn't bad at all. No hesitation in saying, yeah, no. If you're going to get one of the three, get this one. All right, so that's it for Naga. I'll see what else I've got in the queue. I'm going to try and do these a little bit faster. I've got some time on my hands. So that's it for now, and take care, everybody, and I hope you all have a really, really nice day. Take care.